what was it that led to the English with a culture that enabled the birth of what we now call capitalism many centuries before any other country?
Well, if you looked at Europe in the half millennium between the fall of Rome and about the 13th century, much of it was quite modern in my sense of the word. That is to say, this is Carolingian Europe, Western Europe, and you had a very dynamic society in which monasteries, universities were beginning to grow, cities, a great deal of trading, and there was a great deal of freedom and independence between the national power of the kings was weak, and so you had a lot of independence at the urban level, at the religious level, and these worlds were separated. So in many ways you had quite a modern world by 1200 across Europe. So the origins go back to the chaos that occurred after the collapse of the Roman Empire and the shooting up of all sorts of fairly independent institutions, the absence of a very strict social hierarchy of castes or anything like that. So that's how the world that is described by the greatest of historians of that period, Mark Bloch, in his Feudal Society, is described in that way. The disintegration of the state, as he describes feudalism, and the disintegration of the church and everything else. What happened was that after about 1200, England remained modern. In other words, being an island, it was able to filter out pressures that were sweeping across Western Europe in continental countries, which were largely caused by a natural tendency which you find in human societies, which is the gravitation of power towards the center. And this was exacerbated by the fact that these small nation states were in a constant state of competition and war. And in that situation, a ruler was in a prime position because he, the ruler of what would be France or Spain or anywhere else, would say to their nobility, if you don't do what I say and obey me and accept my increasing authority, I will throw you to the wolves. In other words, the Italians or whichever power is on our neighbors. So they used this lever to extract more and more obedience from their nobility, more and more obedience from their urban, formerly independent people. They went into league with the papacy. So you got the joining together of more and more papal and royal power. And so gradually, and especially using a new tool, which was the revival of Roman law. Now, very late Roman law, Justinian law of the 6th century, was very, very dictatorial. It put the king above the law. It put the nobles in a very powerful position. It was a very hierarchical, caste-like system, and suitable for a late imperial power. And this Roman law had died out, but it was revived, particularly firstly in Bologna, and then in other European universities. And it's called the reception of Roman law. It spread across the continent between the 12th, 13th century and the 15th century. And it buffered and supported the central government. So by the 16th, 17th century, you had got a huge divergence. You got an island of law in England, the common law, which had been preserved, with a balanced constitution, the king under the law, etc., etc. A powerful middle class in their cities and urban areas, but everywhere else had moved towards authoritarian, centralized systems. So England, all of Europe, to a certain extent, was modern, but England remained so, and the rest gave up.